Hey everybody, this is Sherry with CPR Craft, Pray, Repeat. And I'm here today with an image from Sweet and Sassy called Fantastic Flowers. And I used a sentiment of theirs from Comforting Pines. This is the focal image that we're going to use today, the stamp set right there called Fantastic Flowers. This is the last flower in the set that I hadn't used. And so today I'm just using the STD that my husband made me, my stamp transfer device, and using it to stamp that image because it's a really big image. That is, I'm doing a 5x7 card there, which is not one of my normal size cards. So that's how big that flower is. It pretty much goes all the way across the 5-inch piece. And I'm just adding a few leaves. I'm adding 3. I put 1 in and I was off camera, so I just took that out of there so y'all didn't have to watch nothing because you couldn't see anything. And you'll notice that my leaves do not touch my flower, and that's okay because I'm going to go in with a pen that a friend of mine got me in Japan, and it is a COPIC brush pen. I don't know if they have these in the United States or not yet, but she got me mine about a year ago, and so I use it every once in a while to practice my lettering, which is like not very good still, and but it worked perfect because it was just the right, I could make it the right thickness for like the stems on the leaves. So that's what I use for that, and you'll see that later on in the video. And I will put the colors that I use on the screen for you guys, like I almost always try to do. Now, you'll notice that I do this and I start with Y000, 11, and 13. I think that's the safety net in me that says, Sherry, you can't tell colors. You know, you're colorblind. Don't push your luck. And so yes, my colors blend, but there's never any boldness to it. And you know, and like I see some people and they put in a really deep shadow, and I'm thinking, oh, how, you know, what if I couldn't blend it, and what if it was the wrong color, and you know, and my brain just goes, you know, a million miles a minute. So you notice here I added Y15 because I did the flower and I just thought it just didn't show any, you know, any darkness where the shadows would be. And not that I like jumped boldly into a darker color. I just went on. And then because of fear of not being able to blend them, I just added it in. I didn't take any away. But I like it a lot better. And I will slow it down here a little bit and in a little while, where you can see the top part of the flower. I will have added the Y15, and then the bottom part I haven't added it yet, and you'll be able to see the difference in the two. And actually, I started to try to watercolor this and I recorded it, but I just thought it looked horrible. And my daughter, I was like, I'll ask my daughter when she gets up, because I was in a lot of pain yesterday, so I was up since like 3 o'clock in the morning. And so I was like, you know, I'm sitting here thinking Danae's going to say, well, Mom, now, you know, you did this wrong and that wrong and this, and you could have done this a little better. And she's like, wow, that's a great job. And I'm like, I thought I'd done so bad. And I asked Mariah, which of course, you know, you never know what she's going to tell you. I said, Mariah, which one's prettier? And the watercolor one was pink, which is her favorite color. And then I did this one. She said, the pink one. And I was like, I'm telling you, I'm going to smack all these people. Now here's where I slow down. I slow the camera down so that you can see the difference between the top petals and the 4 or 5 there on the bottom that, you know, I started originally. There is just adding that Y15 made a huge difference in the dimension and the shape of the petals. So I was really glad I did it. And I'm going to have to learn to get braver and try it more often. So who knows, one of these days I may have a yellow flower with some kind of funky color in the center because I can't match them. But I'm sure you all will tell me nicely, Sherry, you blew it, try again. And so what I wanted to use on this card today, which is why I put the flower up as high as I did on the 5x7, was a set of borders from Cat Scrappiness. And you'll see in a little bit when I finish the flower that I use those to trim out the bottom off of the card. And then of course, you don't have 14-inch paper. So I take a piece and I cut it down to 5 inches. But instead of, cutting that one down to 5 and then cutting down the next, and then trimming it off to 7 and having leftover, no, that'd have been too easy. So I cut both pages down to 5x7 and then realized I had no way to connect them. And I was like, well, I mean, I could have scored it, but that wasn't what I wanted. So I ended up moving the piece up and putting a score line and wrapping it around the back of the card. And you'll see why in the end that I just flubbed this up. But I was able to fix everything. It just irritated me that I kept making mistakes. And it could have been that it was 3 o'clock in the morning. And who in their right mind is up at that hour? But a friend of mine was truly on my heart. And I wanted to make this. I know she's gone through some rough times. And so I wanted to make this for her. And there's a couple other flower cards that I'll be making here in the next few days for you guys to see. I love flower images. I've fallen in love with them. I really have. I mean, I love coloring little people. I love coloring gingerbread. But if you give me a choice, I'm going to pick a beautiful flower anytime. And so I go ahead and I finish the leaves and I'm like, they're not dark enough. So I go over them one more time. And that's the cool thing about COPICs. I could have left it like it was. It was okay. But I wanted them darker. So they layer on top of each other really well. And that's why people say, they'll tell you the combinations or whatever. But, you might not get the same as me. Well, that's because if you choose to do more of the darker or whatever, which is what I did. I layered over top of it and put more of the color and I saturated the paper more. So I was able to get a different color. There's my Copic brush pen. And that is just the perfect size to add the little stems to the leaves. And there are the Cat Scrappiness borders, stitch border dies that I use. And I won those from Maria Russell here on YouTube. And I will put a link to her channel in the description. Maria is not only as sweet as can be, but incredibly talented. And I ran it back through twice because the paper was real thick. And the first time I don't think it cut all the way through. Now this is the Comforting Pine set and where I'm going to get my sentiment from. And I figure out where I'm going to put it. And then I use my Tuxedo? No. My VersaFine Onyx Black ink. Oh my God. It's early again. What is my problem? And then I just didn't like the fact that there was just too much white space at the top. And I don't use ribbon a whole lot on my flowers, or on my cards. But I just felt like this one needed something. So I went ahead and I was going to try strips of paper and I didn't care for that. And I think the ribbon worked perfectly. So here's where you can see I'm trying to figure out how to make this card work. And that's going to be my front panel and I'm going to layer over top of it the floral image I just did. So I'm going to put some ATG tape on the back. Make sure I've got it in the crease and then fold it over. So now the back of my card is 5x7 and the front is shorter. So I go ahead and I add my ATG tape and I put my panel on. Well, then I decided that I wanted something on the underside so that scallop stitching or scallop border with the stitching really popped. So I layer a piece of yellow. It's not the same border, but it has the same style, just a different shape to it. The scallops are bigger. So I go ahead and add that at the bottom, and I'm like, perfect. I loved it. Then I realized when I opened the card that you could still see where the Copic coloring had went through on the back because it didn't get completely covered. So I used my Wink of Stella here, and I don't put a ton on. I want the flower to be the star of the show. I just, wanted to add a little bit of shimmer. And then I'm like, it was driving me crazy because I could see where, the Copics had went through to the back of the paper. So I was like, got to do something else. So I cut another piece of paper, only this time I used the same border that I used on the bottom. And now I'm going to take this, add some ATG tape to it, and then I'm going to layer it up there, and it'll completely cover. See where the Copic is showing through? Then I'm happy with it. All right, guys, that's about it. Remember to practice your CPR, craft, pray, repeat. Thanks for visiting me today, and happy crafting. Bye.